Whew, it's very cold. It's 30 degrees Fahrenheit right now, so that's like, I don't know, -1 Celsius. And it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it got really cold last night. The auto door didn't even open for the chickens because it was frozen shut. So I just came out to check on them and they're all like, what the heck, man? So the ground is wet because it rained all day yesterday and it's frozen. So it's very slick. So the birds are hungry and they're eating. I fed them a bunch of grain and some mealworms, and they still have food and great, you know, their regular food. But they're all standing on one foot and switching because the ground's frozen. Poor babies. I nearly slid down the hill in my garden here. It's actually hard to get back up the hill. The wood chips are frozen and they're wet, so it's like ice under my feet. So, oh boy, we are going to be out at the farm today, later today. I'm not so much waiting for it to warm up as I have some errands to run this morning, and I'm hoping that the migraine that Aiden has will get relieved by his medication so he can go to school. Right now, he's still in bed. So first thing I'm going to do is go wrangle some issues with one of my medications, the prescription. The doctor says there's refills and the pharmacy says there's not. So I got to sort that. And then there is a plant sale, house plant sale at the local nursery. So I'm going to grab a few and then come back, check on Aiden, hopefully take him to school. And then we're going out to the farm because I have some just fun stuff planned and I can't wait to get out there. In fact, I had a hard time sleeping last night because I had so many ideas of things that I want to do out there. So, and today is pretty much going to be the only sunny day. We might have a little bit of rain tomorrow, but Saturday is another washout. So today's my window. All right, heading out.
So everything worked out at the pharmacy, thankfully, and I went to get a whole bunch of cat food because Raven was out, and stopped at the nursery. I only picked up 3 plants, so I didn't go crazy, but I got some bigger ones than I usually do. I did get one in a 4-inch pot. The other 2 are in 6-inch pots. These are really pretty. So first I have this peperomia. Isn't that so pretty? So I've been really bad at houseplants in the past where I've like overwatered things like this, which are sort of succulents and they just don't want to be, they want to dry out a little bit in between waterings. So this guy, at least now I know how to take care of him. He should do well. And then this beautiful alocasia. Look at the backside of these leaves. Isn't that gorgeous? So I already have one of these going. There's also some new leaves starting. There's a new one right there. So that'll be really nice. I think this is the same variety. Yep, this alocasia here. And it's real happy in this pot, but it's a real small pot. So in the spring, when these guys really start going back into their growth period, I'm gonna bump up the pots on a lot of these guys because I think they're struggling a little bit in smaller pots. Not all of them, some of them are doing fine, but there's a few that definitely need to get bumped up. And then the other one I got, and I've literally never had one of these before. I don't know exactly how to say it, Selaginella, but it's really, really cool. Kind of looks like moss. It's not moist or anything, but then it's got these really cool aerial roots here. That's so crazy. So I'm looking forward to growing this plant. And I also love how the leaves go from like really dark to very light at the tips. Yeah, I think it's really pretty. Okay, so Aiden is still suffering, so I'm gonna go on and call him in, and then we're gonna head out to... There are so many projects that have to be done out here that it can feel overwhelming, but at the same time, it's super exciting. I think I told you that last night I had a hard time sleeping because all these ideas were running through my head. So yesterday it rained all day long. We only got about an inch over the course of the day, but you know, the IBC tote is starting to fill up, which is nice. But I spent the entire day on seed time that I've talked about in my seed starting video, which I'll link below if you haven't seen that one already. So I spent the whole day on it, I had already entered all my crops and everything, but I had to make a lot of tweaks because when I finally got the layout set up, which I did for my front garden, I actually went outside in the rain and measured everything so that I could make the layout correct, because it's really cool the way they work it. Once you import all of your crops, you can then do drop down, drag those crops into your layout, into your garden beds that you've laid out, and it'll tell you how many plants will fit in that space. So it's very useful if you can get all the numbers correct. Anyway, so I did that, and then I started working on the flower farm because they're going to be making some major additions to seed time in the future that I think will mean that I can actually completely convert the farm over to that at some point. They're going to have this huge records thing, a whole weather thing. Like, there's just a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pike. That's not right now, so I'm still depending on my spreadsheet for planting and everything, especially because they do have some flowers in there, but most of the information about how long it takes to go from seed to maturity, all that kind of stuff, transplant time, and then harvest window, which is different depending on where you live, and it's kind of like that with vegetables too. I had to make a lot of tweaks with that. So anyway, I wanted to use the layout because I did want, usually I have paper. I use it on a big piece of cardboard. I just draw out the beds and I move things around to figure out where I'm going to put everything, because I've got a whole bunch of plugs arriving in mid-February that need a space, and there is space. I have a whole bunch of mums arriving, I think, in May. I've got lilies arriving in March. So I have a lot of things that need to get plugged in here, and I want to make sure that I have the space for them, as well as all the seeds that I'm starting to replace some of the stuff that didn't do so well over the fall here. So there's a lot of moving parts. So after I did that, I spent about 8 hours on it yesterday. And actually, that's the longest I've been on my computer in ages. And so my elbow and my wrist from all the mousing was really killing me. We've got this pretty awesome infrared heating pad that I used, and actually worked. I used it for about an hour last night, and then all the pain went away. Anyway, that's an aside. Once I did that, then in my head, I got all these ideas swirling, because even though I've got all these beds here, there's still like 2/3 of the property that I haven't even touched yet. And I've been meaning to lay out those, spaces where I want to grow, but now I really need to do it, because this is important so that I can plan where I'm going to put stuff. So today, my mental list, I didn't actually write this down. A bunch of things are going to happen. I'm going to install these gopher hawk traps in the beds here so that I can start capturing gophers and they can stop destroying my beds. I'm going to see if the soils have softened up enough, which they should have after we've gotten at least 4 inches of rain, maybe 5 inches of rain this rainy season so far. The ground feels much softer. Before the rainy season, we couldn't hammer these sleeves in more than maybe 8 inches, and they need to go in almost 36 inches. So I'm going to try that today, and hopefully I can get a bunch in the ground, because that will really speed up the deer fencing process. And I want to lay out with stakes where I want to put some beds out there, so I have an idea of the sizes that I've got to start working with in seed time. And I want to cut, I have a huge, gigantic silage tarp that I've never cut into the right size. So I want to cut a 40 by, I think, 30 to fit on these beds, on these already in-ground beds, so that I can cover what's already there, kill off the grass that's popped up in that two of those beds, so that in a month, when the trays of seedlings arrive, I can pull back that silage tarp and all that grass should be dead, and I can just pop things in and I don't have to worry about weeding first. So it's a lot on tap. Every one of those little projects. Oh, I still have to weed too. I still have 3 beds to weed. Not all of that's going to happen today, obviously, but like I said, today is our dry day. Tomorrow should be mostly dry for most of the day, I'm hoping. And then Saturday is a complete washout. We need the rain, so I'm happy that it's coming. But I won't be able to be out here on Saturday working, so I've got to get as much of this done as I can today. Also, again, it's crucial for planning. So I've got to get some of those beds laid out, at least with stakes. And I have cardboard. So I think what I'm going to do is lay out beds where I want them with the stakes, and then bring out the cardboard and weight that down with bricks. We've got plenty of bricks so that it can start to get, with the rain, it'll get wet and start to soften, because we've got a lot of cardboard, and it's really thick cardboard, which is going to be great for weed suppression, especially the grass. But I'm going to need to weight it down so that the wind doesn't take it away or it doesn't wash down the hill if we got some kind of crazy rain. So, all right, I think the first thing I'm going to try is hammering in some sleeves. Okay, so this is the sleeve I'm talking about. This pointy end goes into the ground. There's some divots here, all right? So when you slide the fence post into the top, it stops here. But this sleeve is supposed to go all the way into the ground to about here. So that's a lot of hammering. And like I said, before the rains came, we were only able to get a couple of them in, and not even all the way. We only got them in like this hard, this deep. And it mushroomed out the top here so that you couldn't get the poles in. So I'm hoping that the rains have softened things up a little bit. However, I don't know, not super hopeful. I think what we're going to have to end up doing is renting a pneumatic or gas-powered post pounder. Problem is, it's still going to mushroom this area here. You use this guy, slides right in here, and you hammer this, and that mushrooms the end. And the post pounder is still going to do that. Plus, this is way too wide for the post pounder, so we're still going to have to use something like this. And the post pounder, when you slide the thing in, it comes into about here, so we still won't be able to get it flush into the ground. But we might be able to cut a piece of pipe, a shorter piece of pipe that can act as like an extension to help nail it in. But I think we're still going to suffer from the mushrooming thing. So we'll see. But that will be a whole lot easier than manually doing this. So let's see. I don't have a whole lot of hope that this is going to work. I really should be wearing ear protection doing this. Okay, it's going in, but not quickly. And I don't know, we'll see how far I can get it going. But this is hard work. And if you consider we have to put one of these every 20 feet for over 500 feet of fence, this is not sustainable. I think I'm just going to leave this. We'll use a pneumatic device or a gas-powered one. So I do think that the ground is softer, and that will make the pneumatic device easier to use. Plus, I did notice that, sorry, I'm still out of breath. What I did there didn't mushroom out the metal at the top. So maybe the ground is soft enough that we won't have that issue when we use the automatic post pounder. Okay, we are on the as yet occupied part of the property. Looking back this way, you can see the beds inside the deer fence. All of this lumber and stuff came from the fish ranch. So this area right here is not perfectly flat, but it's pretty decent. I'm going to put a small greenhouse here using tools from there. This cattle panel I'm going to use in that orientation on the ground with T-posts, probably right along here, and that's going to be a sweet pea trellis. And so you can see I can go all the way up here, but it's very hilly, right? So I'm not going to be doing much up there. Here, so that where the deer fence is going to end, and I'm walking up a slope here, this pole right here is where the
deer fence will line up with this hillside and go down there. See the yellow flags? Mostly gonna follow that line. I'm not really gonna go above that. So like on this slope here, I'm gonna pop in, you know, calendula, rudbeckia, salvias, all the perennials. This will be like a pollinator patch because it's on a hill and can't really easily grow row crops here. But you can see all the grass and stuff and gophers and things. So I will, because we'll have enough, I will put cardboard down here, weight it down, and then it will get a layer of compost in the spring when I go to plant it all up. But then looking at other places to grow, so here's that relatively flat area that I'm going to use for the little greenhouse. The deer fence, there's a corner pole there, will roughly go along the edge of this. There's some pink flags there down to that yellow flag because it slopes tremendously, and dealing with a slope and a fence is a pain in the rear. So basically we're just going to follow the contour. So I've got all of this space to plant up, and this area here, oh my gosh, there's so much mud on my shoes. I feel like I'm 3 inches taller. Is sloped a bit, but I can put in small, like 3x8 beds here with cardboard. I could use wood to create boxes if I wanted to, but I'm saving this for now for use for the greenhouse. So I can put things to grow all along here, nice long beds, kind of along the fence line. And then starting in this area right here, and I've been watching this because this is a little gully here. You'll see there's a, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's a scoop out here. So this is kind of a natural water catchment area. And so I've been watching this. I would imagine in a heavy rain event, this would basically just be a sheet of water. So I don't really want to put a whole bunch of stuff here, but this is some flat land. So I might take a risk this year, since we don't have that much, we haven't been getting that much rain, and put some stuff up here because this is another relatively flat spot. So I don't know, these are all gonna be temporary beds made with cardboard and compost that I can readjust as needed. But there's lots and lots of space here. So I just envision having a whole bunch of smaller beds instead of row crops, with the exception of this area right here. So starting about where I'm standing is fairly flat to that pink flag actually just beyond it. So it's about 15 to 20 feet wide, and it comes down here to almost 40 feet. So it's almost the same length and size as the beds I already have in the ground. This is a pretty flat area, so I think I'm going to convert this whole area to row crop. So what I'm going to do today is stake it out and probably, I was going to say probably bring over the cardboard, but you know what? There's some stuff here that, like, this is a cardoon and it's pretty big. I think I'm going to maybe come through here with a string trimmer next week after the rains. It's supposed to be a little drier next week. But I'll stake this area out and then I'll come through with a string trimmer, flatten it, and then put the cardboard down, weight it down, and maybe add the soil. Or just wait for the first rain, first rain since it comes, and then it can soften up the cardboard for me. Then I'll add the soil and we can plant into it. The fence, deer fence, will go up to here because it's relatively flat here. It's not a very steep slope. So this is even more planting area. It's not as flat as this. So again, it'll be like individual beds that are working with the contour so that we don't have pooling of water, we'll have runoff. At this point, I'm just going to be doing a lot of experimentation right now and hammering things in and seeing what it looks like. It is winter, so the sun is very low in the sky. This area right now is in shade at 12:30 p.m., but it is not in shade in the summertime. So just in case you were concerned about that, this area is in full sun almost the entire day in the summer because the sun is much higher in the sky. We have this big eucalyptus tree right here that kind of blocks everything in the winter, but that's not an issue come summer. All right, so I'm just gonna play around and see what I can do. Pull in a tape measure, making notes on my phone, and yeah, maybe I'll be able to get some stuff laid out today and at least have a good idea of what it's going to look like, and be able to put that into seed time so that I can start planning for all the other planting that I need to do, because I'm starting way more seeds than I have room for up there in those already raised beds. Well, I just added about 500 square feet of growing space. So we've got a bed here that is 10 feet wide, 40 feet long. And I did 40 feet. I could have come a little bit further this way, but I did 40 feet for two reasons. One, that is the standard length of my beds, my in-ground, row crop beds. And that helps when it comes to materials. So if all of your row crops are 40 feet, then all of your materials like row cover and landscape fabric and irrigation, all that kind of stuff is also 40 feet. So it makes it very easy. I also stopped there because right here where I'm standing, if I wanted to add 5 or even 10 feet, it's relatively flat, but I'm also in that potential gully, and I don't know what this looks like in a heavy rain yet. So I'm holding off until I know, because there is still some flat space over here. So I want to come out here in a hard rain and see what happens here before I put any planting beds in this, what to me is an obvious water evac area. You got a little hill over there where I'm going to put pollinators and stuff, pollinator bed plants. So we've got this 10 by 40 bed. I might be able to get 3 30-inch beds in here. If not, I'll put 2 and have lots of pathway room. Then there's a pathway here, and you can see this line of stakes is the bottom of 4 by 6 beds, and they are oriented up and down the slope. So there's pathways in between here. And the reason for that is I have learned from farming on a slope at my home that for me, it's better to have the beds going this direction with the slope for runoff, because otherwise, in the past, I did try it with beds going along the contour line. And what happened then was water pooled up against the up the uphill side of the beds. It started undermining the bed when it got heavier rain, and then stuff downstream didn't get as much water. It just was weird. So this is what I do at home. It works for me there. The water, because the beds are raised, in-ground raised beds, the water gets into the pathways and runs off through the pathways. Now, you might be saying, but now you've got your pathways for these upstairs raised beds. They're gonna run off into this big 10 by 30. That is a possibility. However, what I plan to do is in this pathway in between, which actually gets a little bit more narrow as you get closer back here, but I'm gonna dig a trench and build up a berm. And so in permaculture, that's like a way to store water in the hillside. So I'll dig, and it'll be a wide enough pathway where I can get my wheelbarrow up and down, or the gorilla cart, but I'll dig out that area, probably put gravel or at the minimum wood chips in it, deep wood chips, and then there'll be a berm running alongside this 10 by 30 bed. So it'll capture a lot of the water, and it'll slowly sink into that berm and then also underground, and it'll hold that soil in place. And really, unless we get a massive, massive rain event, this area, the 10 by 40 bed, should be fine. But we'll see. I mean, you know, there's always a chance that there could be destruction. Who knows? This is the first time farming on this piece of land. So I still have a lot of space out here that I haven't even begun to touch. I'm standing here at the head of this 10 by 40 bed, looking back towards the already in-ground raised beds. And you see this whole area here. Again, this is what I think is a wash. It's nice and kind of flat right here. It'd be awesome to put something, but again, I'm not going to risk that until I know what the situation is. And, you know, I'm sure we're going to get some heavy rain at some point this year. Hopefully, gosh, I hope so, that I'll be able to come out and see what's going on with that. If I can't do anything with it, then maybe I'll just, you know, during the growing season, it's not a big deal because we never get rain after like March. So I might be able to put up some maybe some big round beds or like a couple birdies beds because those will be elevated. We'll see. I'll think about it. But again, this little mound here will be all perennial, pollinator-friendly plants. And then I'll put the greenhouse in this area here running this direction, so that with a door on each end so I can access both ends of the garden or the farm. And here and there and everywhere I will have little trellises set up. I mean, I might do that here during the season in this area where we're not going to get any water. Maybe this will just be a big circle of teepee trellises that I can grow flowers, but also vegetables and stuff. I mean, I could do pretty much anything in this area in the summertime. I could even make this central plot here a big Three Sisters garden just for fun, because like I said, in the summertime we're not going to get any rain. And those things don't need to be planted out until after the rains are done. So, you know, that's an idea. In any case, no matter what, I have to come out here with a string trimmer next week because there are plenty of like cardoons and stuff. It's not just grass, it's like big things that I think would even have a hard time dying underneath the cardboard. So I want to come out here, trim everything up, then put the cardboard down on all of the new bed space, weight it down with bricks, and then let it sit here for a little while. I can't let it sit for too long, at least not in the 4x6 beds, because I need to direct sow a lot of my seeds right now, like Nigella and poppies and Phacelia, and there's just a whole collection of them that I need to go on and direct sow. So I do want to get those 4x6 beds set up, and that's easy enough to do. I can just put the cardboard down. I could put 2 layers of cardboard if I wanted to, and I have compost already. So all I have to do is wheel it out here and get those beds set up. Now they won't be inside the deer fence yet because I'll be direct sowing them. And that means when they pop up, the birds might be interested. What I'll do is I'll cover them all. I'll just cover the whole area with hoop and row cover and get it down real good, and that way when they start popping up, first of all, it'll keep them a little bit warmer under there, so it'll be easier for them to germinate. Secondly, the birds won't get them and the deer won't get them. So even though right now there's tons of deer browse, I'm not too worried about that, but until I get the whole thing deer fenced in, I'm not gonna be foolish. I'm gonna do what I need to do to keep them out of what I want them to stay out of. So, I mean, that's my responsibility, so I'm gonna do that. So yeah, I need at least 2 of those beds, at least, for direct sowing, and then I have other stuff I need to put in as well. So I'm excited. Adding an additional 500 square feet of growing space, that's a lot. And that's still not even all the space that I have access to. And I'm sure over time I'll find nooks and crannies everywhere. Like beyond that, the edge of the 40-foot bed, there's still a whole bunch, still probably 20 more feet, but it's fairly sloped. Again, I can do stuff with that. It just doesn't need to be row crops. I can do teepee trellises or just regular trellises up a hill. I mean, I can do all kinds of stuff. So it's gonna be about creativity. I do have the flat space right now for my in-ground row crops. That's what I need, and it'll be enough for the growing season with the addition of these things. So I think we're all set. All right, I am going to have a snack and then try to get at least 1 bed weeded before I head home, because it's wintertime, the sun will be going down and it'll start to get cold again. It's actually really nice right now. It's about 45 degrees Fahrenheit and just a very light breeze, but it's gonna get cold quick once that sun goes behind the hill. So I'm gonna go have a snack, get that maybe 1 bed weeded. I am not gonna get to the silage tarp today, like see all the grass in the landscape fabric there. I wanna cover those 2 beds. I mean, the middle bed is fine, but I'm gonna cover it anyway. And then part of this one, so that, because there's ranunculus right here, so that the grass dies off before I have to put seedlings in there in about the 20th of February. But the silage tarp is extremely heavy because it's huge. I think it's 50 by 100 and I've never cut it down. So I want to come back next week when I'm a little more rested, and I have to pull it out. It's super, super heavy. I'm probably gonna have to stretch it up this hill because there's no other flat space to deal with it, and then mark it off and cut it and everything, and then fold it up and carry it in there. So that's actually quite a bit of work for one person because it's real heavy. So I'll do that next week, and that's fine. A couple days more is not gonna be a big deal. In any case, it's gonna get about a month on there. Now, we don't have any heat right now, so it won't kill off as fast, but there will be 0 light getting to that grass. And over the period of a month, that'll do some damage. I'm gonna go on and weed this bed, but that's gonna be it for me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful time in your garden. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.